Think about this. During the 1930s and 40s, the Nazi Party portrayed the Jewish community as a race that poisoned its culture, seized its economy, and enslaved its workers and farmers. Jews were considered evil. There's some striking similarities between the anti-Jewish hatred in the 1930s and the anti-white, anti-men, or anti-parent hatred today. I've read countless articles on CNN, CBC, or Medium that share hate for these causes. Take this Medium article by Rebecca Stevens, titled, "Why Do White Middle-Aged Men Hate Meghan Markle So Much?" Of course, if you read the article, her claims aren't based on any data, interview, or even common perception. It's simply a hate piece on white men. If you need more examples, it would take you all of 5 seconds to find more hate on Google. Hate towards white people, men, ethnicities, and even parents is a growing concern. If we consider the most hateful times in human history, like the Nazi regime, Apartheid in South Africa, or the Rwandan Genocide, there are some frightening similarities between the tribalism of these historic events and the tribalism of today. Today we'll take a look at some examples of modern hate and dive into some of the comparisons with historic events. If you like these conversations as much as I do, hit those like and subscribe buttons. My name is Chris, and this is The Think Report. If you read Rebecca Stevens' article, she writes, "When I superimpose my experience with that of Meghan Markle, a biracial woman, it becomes crystal clear to me that she's hated by middle-aged white men like Piers Morgan and Jeremy Clarkson. They believe that as a black woman, she should know her place. And that place is, she shouldn't be assertive, she shouldn't talk back, she shouldn't have her own opinions or an ego. Basically, she should just be a doormat." That paragraph is important. It demonstrates the catalyst for her beliefs. If she'd actually watched any Piers Morgan at all, she'd know that he's not the type of individual to say that she shouldn't be assertive, shouldn't talk back, and she shouldn't have her own opinions or have an ego. I've watched enough Piers Morgan to know that it's very likely that he'd say the exact opposite. Yet, for one reason or another, she believes it to be true that middle-aged white men have wronged her. There are countless articles you can find that reinforce the same theme, that due to white people, the patriarchy, men, or some other group, all of us are victims. And that's my whole point here. There's a loud majority of people who believe that these groups are a direct threat. While most Germans disapproved of anti-Jewish violence, dislike of Jews extended far beyond the Nazi Party supporters. The majority of Germans, at least passively, accepted discrimination against Jews. An underground report prepared in January 1936 by an observer for German Social Democratic Party leaders in exile noted, "The feeling that Jews are another race is today a general one." In this poster, a stereotyped Jew conspires behind the scenes to control the Allied powers, represented by the British, American, and Soviet flags. The caption reads, "Behind the enemy powers, the Jew." After World War I, Germany fell into an economic depression. The war bestowed crippling inflation on the country, which lasted into the 30s. During this time, the German Jewish population made up less than 1% of the total German population, but owned approximately 2% of the country's wealth. This was not because they oppressed white Germans, threatened them, or took advantage of the patriarchy. They earned it by working hard and smart. Nonetheless, there was a ubiquitous theme that Jews were the source of German hardship. Of course, white Germans did not consider that their economic troubles were of their own doing and the direct result of World War I. Instead, a general animosity was directed towards the Allied powers for unjustly punishing Germany with the Treaty of Versailles and at the Jews for hoarding all the wealth and stealing the country. Through this example, you can draw similarities between how Germany unjustly felt towards the Jews in the 1930s and how the far left feels towards the white or male or parental population today. In Germany, fear was the source of anti-Semitism. Fear of not being able to put food on the table, losing the traditional German culture, and losing control of the German economy and wealth. Today, we can observe similar fear. fear that minorities won't be accepted or treated fairly, fear that the LGBTQ are oppressed, fear that the patriarchy is a glass ceiling for women. The fear is so present that the activist groups are willing to trade freedom for safety. A glaring example of this is the concept that you can choose your own pronouns and everyone else must abide. If you don't comply, you're canceled. In this example, activist groups trade the freedom of expression, including their own, for the safety of the transgendered in their pronouns. California, Canada, and the UK are some of the most woke places in the world right now. And as a result, children are being taught in school that their own perception of the world, like whether or not someone looks like a man or a woman, is less important than the feelings of a stranger. What a strange concept. Your perception of the world matters less than someone else's perception. As a result, you must distort your own reality to accommodate. What happened in Rwanda in 1994 seems almost incomprehensible. In just 100 days, government forces, militia, and regular citizens carried out a genocide against the Tutsi social and ethnic minority population. An estimated 800,000 to 1 million Tutsi were killed, and mass sexual violence was committed against Tutsi women and girls. Rwanda was made up of largely two ethnicities, the Hutu majority and the Tutsi minority. After gaining independence in 1962, Rwanda would be perpetually in conflict between these two ethnic groups for the next 30 years. Many of the Tutsi minority fled to neighboring countries. Eventually, the Tutsi who had been exiled from Rwanda to surrounding countries began pressing for the right to return to their home country. In 1990, a Tutsi rebel group known as the Rwanda Patriotic Front invaded Rwanda. The military responded with force, and the conflict developed into civil war. Anti-Tutsi sentiment began to increase in intensity as Hutu-dominated media painted the Tutsi minority as a threat to Rwanda. You can probably see where this is going. Not dissimilar to the white Germans of the 1930s, the Hutu minority feared that they were losing control of the culture, country, and their economy to a parasitic minority. From April to July 1994, after 30 years of conflict, massacres were carried out by Hutu government forces as well as armed militia. Participation in the genocide against the Tutsi was widespread. Neighbors turned on neighbors, friends turned on friends, and even family turned on family. Once again, we see that hate and eventually genocide was rooted in fear. Tribalism is a loyalty to one's own tribe, party, or group. This could be your family, your culture, your gender, your school, or any group attribute. Over the last 200 years, as authoritarian governments and monarchies were slowly replaced with democratic ones, a tendency to trade your tribal loyalty for your government occurred. This was important for the success of the democratic government. If you were wronged in some way, no longer would your group, like your family, your gender, your street, or your town, take your revenge. Your government would do it for you. This is called the social contract. You give up certain rights or wealth, like taxes, and in return, your government creates order, provides safety, and builds infrastructure. However, lately, there's an observable regression from this. Tribalism seems more and more centered around race, gender, or political affiliation, and less centered around one's country. In my own neighborhood, there's a store that posted on their Facebook that in a predominantly white neighborhood, they seemed surprised that the majority of kids who steal are also white. They close with the hashtag #WhiteKidsSteal. This is a store owned by a minority couple. On Wednesday, September 20th, a demonstration called the 1 Million March for Children was staged in multiple Canadian cities. The organizers say on their website that the purpose of the demonstration is to advocate for the elimination of sexual orientation and gender identity curriculum, pronouns, gender ideology, and mixed bathrooms in schools. The day before the demonstration, every parent with a student received an email from their school board clarifying that the school board stands with our trans, two-spirit, and non-binary students, staff, and families, and we support everyone's human rights and expression of gender. News publishers across the country claim things like 2SLGBTQIA+ children and youth are being targeted by hate-motivated extremism under the guise of parental rights. The Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, even tweeted, "Let me make one thing very clear. Transphobia, homophobia, and biphobia have no place in this country. We strongly condemn this hate and its manifestations, and we stand united in our support of 2SLGBTQI+ Canadians across the country. You are valid and you are valued." This misses the point entirely. These parents are not saying down with trans people. They're saying don't push LGBTQ ideologies onto our kids. Just like we don't want religious ideologies pushed onto our kids. Why can't we just stick to math, English, and science? It's things like this that create conflict. If you claim that white people are stealing from your stores or parents are oppressing the trans community, everyone loses. The days of can't we all just get along are coming to an end. We have to attach ourselves to a tribe just so we can fight with other tribes. A new study of American men by the International Gender, Equality, and Social Justice Organization, Equimundo, has revealed that not only are men struggling more than ever, but they're backing away from gender equality, with younger men in particular embracing anti-feminist voices like Andrew Tate. In the survey titled State of American Men, 44% of men reported suicidal thoughts and 48% saying that their online life is better than their day-to-day life. This is exactly what I'm talking about. If you want strangers to do something for you, you can't get them to do it by making them feel like shit or steamrolling their principles. If our goal is gender equality, you can't villainize men. If your goal is gender-inclusive places for children, don't villainize the parents. If your goal is to destroy racial stereotypes, then don't hate on other races. It seems as though the woke are picking fights with all of these groups, and it's becoming apparent that these groups are being pushed too far and are starting to push back. There are countless examples in recent history beyond World War II and Rwanda, where two opposing viewpoints ended in tragedy. I can't say for sure if it's too late for us to change, but I will say that our system has been set up to value extremist viewpoints. I've been in business for 20 years, and if there's one thing I've learned as a leader, it's that if you want change to happen, you need everyone to be on board. Bullying people into change never works. Think about that.